In today's episode, we are diving deep into one of the most shocking collapses in corporate America, the Enron case. We'll explore how Enron's seemingly invincible empire crumbled in December 2001, leading to the largest bankruptcy declaration in the U.S. history and shattering the lives of employees and investors. But Enron wasn't alone in this debacle. Arthur Andersen LLP, one of the Big Five accounting firms, played a pivotal role in the scandal. We'll uncover how conflicts of interest and unethical practices of Arthur Andersen enabled Enron's deception and led to the firm's downfall. Join us as we unravel the intricate details of this corporate catastrophe, examining the investigation that followed, the legal battles, and the lasting impact on corporate governance.
For background, Arthur Andersen LLP, co-founded by Arthur Andersen and Clarence Delaney in Chicago in 1913, became one of the Big Five largest accounting firms in the United States over nearly 90 years. The firm stood alongside Deloitte & Touche, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, and KPMG. Enron, based in Houston, operated a massive 36,000-mile natural gas transmission network and was the leading marketer of natural gas and electricity in the U.S. They managed the world's largest portfolio of natural gas risk management contracts and introduced innovative trading products. Enron was repeatedly recognized for its innovation and reached number 7 on the Fortune 500 list in 2000.
However, its bankruptcy in December 2001, the largest in U.S. history, became a symbol of corporate greed and corruption, costing investors and employees over $70 billion in lost capitalization and retirement benefits. Enron was created through a merger between Houston Natural Gas and Internorth. HNG shifted from retail gas sales to gas exploration and production in 1976, and by 1984 had significant assets and profits. Internorth, established in 1930 as Northern Natural Gas Company, aimed to acquire HNG in 1985 to prevent a hostile takeover.
This led to the formation of HNG Internorth, later renamed Enron, with headquarters in Houston under CEO Kenneth Lay. Enron's pipeline network extended over 36,000 miles across the United States and into Canada.
Enron's bankruptcy declaration in December 2001 resulted in the loss of the nest eggs of thousands of employees and stockholders. The FBI Houston field office assigned 2 agents to conduct an investigation. In a matter of weeks, the team of agents and support staff assigned to the case expanded to 45. Many were selected from field offices across the country for their exceptional skills in navigating even the most complex paper trails.
The enormity of the case led to the formation of the multi-agency Enron Task Force. This specialized team included investigators and analysts from the FBI, the Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation Division, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and prosecutors from the Department of Justice.
In January 2002, agents conducted a consent search of Enron's 50-story corporate headquarters building. Over 9 days, investigators uncovered crucial documents and collected over 400 boxes of evidence. Simultaneously, they conducted more than 100 interviews, which generated new leads for the investigation. In February 2002, Enron's board of directors released the findings of its internal investigation, known as the Powers Report. Named after William Powers Jr., who led the Special Investigation Committee, the report revealed that Enron executives had used a network of partnerships to create false profits and conceal the company's true debt, resulting in millions of dollars in gains for themselves.
Retired Supervisory Special Agent Michael E. Anderson, who led the Enron Task Force in Houston, described the Power Report as a gold mine. Specialized agents recovered over 4 terabytes of digitalized data, equivalent to 4,000 copies of an encyclopedia, including emails from more than 600 employees. Meanwhile, the Regional Computer Forensics Lab in Houston processed approximately 30 terabytes of data, further deciphering the paper trail and identifying crucial leads for investigators. Financial analysts meticulously examined hundreds of bank and brokerage accounts to trace fraudulent purchases. The effort was vital in obtaining restraining orders seizing over $168 million in assets and supporting insider trading charges. Additionally, more than $105 million was forfeited to aid in compensating the victims.
The investigation unveiled a complex network of interconnected schemes, many of which were little more than smoke and mirrors, ultimately leading to the collapse of a company that once boasted annual revenues exceeding $150 billion. Enron exploited California, selling energy to the state's struggling utilities at inflated rates. The company's officials exaggerated the potential of its fledgling broadband venture, tying the stock price to the early internet bubble. Additionally, Enron significantly overvalued its international assets by billions to generate cash flow and manipulated its quarterly earnings statements to keep Wall Street content and maintain its stock price. Overall, agents conducted over 1,800 interviews, gathering more than 3,000 boxes of evidence, and analyzed over 4 terabytes of digitalized data. The 5-year investigation culminated in jury convictions of senior Enron executives who had enriched themselves by deceiving investors through fraudulent accounting practices. Many others involved in the scheme also pleaded guilty.
A total of 22 individuals were convicted for their involvement in the Enron fraud, including top executives such as the CEO, President/COO, CFO, Treasurer, Chief Accounting Officer, and Head of Business Units. The Enron task force's efforts led to the convictions of nearly the entire executive management team, showcasing the effective collaboration of various agencies. Mr. Anderson emphasized that Enron's culture allowed for dishonesty and cheating as long as it benefited the company, a mentality that was tolerated by former CEOs Skilling and Lay. The task force was driven by the desire to hold those responsible accountable, and to bring justice to the thousands of victims who lost their pensions, health insurance, and livelihood due to Enron's collapse. Despite the personal sacrifices involved in the 5-year investigation, the task force persevered to ensure that the perpetrators were punished.
Arthur Andersen's side of the case. Arthur Andersen played an important role in Enron's downfall because as one of the big 5 accounting firms, it was supposed to be an independent evaluator of Enron's financial activities. However, Andersen did not live up to the ethical standard. However, it was clear that Andersen was involved in Enron's questionable actions that led to the bankruptcy of Enron and the decline of Arthur Andersen. This case showcases how serious a conflict of interest can be and how much it can affect the companies and shareholders involved.
Enron used deceptive accounting practices to hide its debts and make its profits look better. These activities went unnoticed by Arthur Andersen, who was Enron's external auditor for years. As the firm that was responsible for reviewing Enron's financial statements and ensuring their accuracy with GAAP, Andersen had a duty to act as a safety net for the investors and the public. Andersen, instead of protecting investors, became entangled in the activities going on at Enron. Andersen's auditors were aware of Enron's accounting fraud, but decided to overlook them with the help of their senior executives at the firm.
The main problem in this situation was the consulting relationship that Enron had with Andersen. During the late 1990s, Enron began to pay Andersen for consulting services on top of the original audit work. Because of this consulting pay, there was a clear conflict of interest for Andersen. The firm's auditors not only performed the audit services for Enron, but also profited from the consulting activities provided by Andersen. These unethical business relations between Enron and Andersen meant Andersen had incentives to protect the interests of Enron and overlook the plentiful amounts of red flags within their financial statements.
Part of Enron's downfall was when Andersen allowed Enron to use special purpose entities and mark-to-market accounting. The use of these practices allowed Enron to hide its debt and mark up its profits. Then, market accounting allowed Enron to recognize its future profits as current income. These methods are both legally and ethically wrong, yet due to the conflict of interest, Andersen approved them. During 2001, the relationship between Enron and Andersen began to unravel. Investigations that reached into Enron's practices began, and it was revealed that Anderson had shredded documents that were related to their audits of Enron's financial statements. This destruction of evidence was an attempt to hide the role that Anderson had played in Enron's fraudulent activities. Because of this, the firm faced charges of obstruction of justice, and in 2002, the U.S. Department of Justice indicted Arthur Anderson for the destruction of documents that related to its Enron audits. In 2005, the conviction was overturned, but the reputation of the firm was damaged beyond repair. Many of their clients and employees left, leading to the collapse of Arthur Anderson as a major accounting firm.
Arthur Anderson's involvement in Enron's fraudulent activities had severe consequences. Both companies' failures ruined the lives of thousands of employees, shareholders, and retirees. Most of the retirees had a majority of their life savings lost in the crash. The bankruptcy of Enron was the largest in the history of the U.S. at the time, and the scandal led to scrutiny of many corporate accounting practices. In response to the scandal, the U.S. government passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002. This implemented strict regulations on accounting practices and corporate governance in order to prevent anything like this from happening again in the future.
Before we wrap up, just a few fun facts about this case. During the shredding of documents, many of the Arthur Anderson employees shredded so many documents that the shredding machines overheated in their Houston offices. Enron had a secret code for their fake profits. They would make shell companies to hide their debt and inflate their earnings, and one of the most notorious was named Raptor after the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. Also, employees at Enron thought that the collapse was a practical joke because their managers had reassured so often that Enron was stronger than ever. And Enron stock before the crash was at $90 per share, and after it plummeted to 12 cents a share. And that wraps up today's deep dive into Enron's scandal and the role Arthur Anderson played in one of the most shocking corporate collapses in history. From Enron's inflated profits to Arthur Anderson's ethical failures, we've seen how unchecked greed and conflicts of interest can tear apart both companies and lives. The consequences were far-reaching, with thousands losing their savings and the collapse of both corporations, leaving an indelible mark on the world of business. The aftermath prompted new regulations like the Sarbanes-Oxley Act to help prevent such a disaster from ever happening again. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you found this story of corporate corruption and justice as eye-opening as we did.